Here we see the fourth valve and the locking mechanism on the Wessex Sinfonico. It's similar to the old Bessons or Sterlings that I've played before. The flap slides down over the valve, like that, to protect it when it's in the case. This one is about as tight as I can get it when I push it up that far, so it hangs kind of in the way. Although it didn't bother me when I was playing, some people have mentioned that it does get in their way. But it's very tight here. If you don't push it back so it's that tight, if you just push it out of the way like that, or if you loosen the screw, there's some fear that it would fall into place like that and then block the action of the fourth valve, so that would not be good. Perhaps that is something Wessex can smooth out in further production. On the underside of the cap there's a nice felt pad. It feels like very almost scratchy, kind of hard felt, so it'll probably hold up okay. If not, that should be easy to replace if it wears out. Here's a view of the tuning slide on the Wessex. You notice that it has extended pieces here. This is what they call the long tuning slide. That helps me and some of the other players who've tested this play the horn at the normal A440 standard. However, Wessex does ship it. I haven't unwrapped this with a shorter version of that slide. For people who have trouble getting it up to the pitch, they can use this shorter slide instead. Here's the hand grip on my Adams Euphonium. As you can see, it's soldered to this tube here, to the main branch. Then when it comes around this side, it's soldered to the underside of that tube to finish it off. On the Wessex, it starts out the same way, but over on this side, it solders directly to the side of that tube. So the reach is slightly different. It doesn't come quite as close to the valves. The previous tester on this found that quite comfortable. It worked out very well for his hands. For my hands, my thumb tends to get kind of squeezed in here. It's trapped a little bit. You can see I'm lifting it, which is the knuckle, in this area here. So for me, that's a little bit too close. When I'm sitting and using my lap pad to hold the horn up, I can change the angle slightly, bringing my hand around this way, which is fairly comfortable, and then I don't get pinched. But when I try to stand and play it, or if I don't have the lap pad, it's a little bit close for me. That's something you might want to try first if you're considering the instrument. Here's the front side of the Sinfonico. As you can see, the seams are nicely put together. It fits very smoothly together. One thing I particularly appreciated was the gauge of the metal on the second valve pull ring here. It's quite thick. It's also quite a large diameter. So there's no chance your finger's going to get stuck in here, as it does, for me anyway, on some of the older Bessons, for example, where the ring is kind of small. As is the current modern standard, the Wessex uses rather open wraps where possible. These tubes have a nice gentle curve to them, rather than being tight or squaring the corners, which helps the air flow a little bit more easily through the instrument. The fit of all these slides is very tight right now, but it's smooth in its tightness. That is, it's consistent. It's especially nice on the second valve here, because that slide is so short on this leg that if it's too loose, it can tend to fall out on the instrument. This one is not going to do that. Here we have the Wessex Bell. It's copper plated inside the bell as well, which gives it a unique look. Here's my Adams Bell, and you can see the Wessex Bell is quite a lot smaller. However, as I compare the fit of this mute, I put it here on the Wessex, and I've got barely a finger's thickness. I'll put it here in the Adams. I've got a little bit more than a finger's thickness, so it sticks out slightly farther in the Adams. That means that the Wessex is actually thicker or wider in this area than the Adams is. So even though the Wessex Bell is narrower at the end, it's wider here. So it is not just the bell diameter. As you can see again, the larger diameter here on the Adams, slightly smaller on the Wessex. But inside the bell, perhaps about where your fist would end up if you put it in like that, the Sinfonico has a little bit more room than the Adams does. So down in this area here, I'm talking about, we'll call it the logo area, there's a little bit more room in the Wessex. I think that helps give the Wessex a little bigger sound than it might have otherwise. If you've already listened to the comparison videos I did of these two instruments, back to back in the same room, you'll hear that the Wessex sound does hold up very well to the Adams. It's not quite as rich, but it really is very close and does a good job. I believe part of its success in creating a nice sound is the way they've got this total bell shape done here. This accessory pouch comes with the Wessex. What's inside, first of all, are the 2 extra bits. The very end of the receiver comes out. This one here is made to fit the large size mouthpiece, the bass trombone size shank that my current mouthpiece uses and that the Adams uses. It's also shipped with a receiver that fits a small shank, like a tenor shank mouthpiece, and the in-between shank, such as the Wilson 2900 or the old Bessons would use. There's a key for the case, also some spare parts for the valves, valve springs, and some of the bumpers that go on top. Nice feature. In addition, there's a polishing cloth and a little valve kit here with valve oil and a microfiber cloth, I assume, to wipe the valves down.